Welcome back after a short wait for This Film Not Rated to This Film Not Rated, a branch of the Music City Drive-In Podcast Network. I'm Eric.
And I am Curtis.
And we're here catching up on 2023. We're here talking about movies as objectively as possible, but that's sort of the joke about the whole thing, so don't at us. Everybody thinks that there's an objective truth to a movie, so we're trying to find it because everyone else out there seems to think there's a right answer. So if you join us, we try and make it through 15 questions where we give completely objective facts to tell you the truth about a movie and not just some subjective opinion. And then we don't, and we fall off of that, and then we talk about movies for real like people do.
Yes.
Yeah, if we can make it through 15 questions, this week I think Curtis is in the gauntlet, then he will get to ask for a special prop related to the movie chosen for the gauntlet. And so what is the movie we're talking about today, Curtis?
Well, the one we're doing for the gauntlet day is Shazam, which just came out this past weekend. Shazam! Fury of the Gods is about how Billy Batson is now going through sort of self-doubt. Imposter syndrome is kind of how they describe it at the beginning of the movie. And he's basically trying to prove his self-worth as a new superhero. That's basically the movie.
Okay. So, are you ready to go through and just tell us the truth about the movie, the facts only?
Completely the facts and only the facts, nothing but.
Okay, I'm going to pretend I didn't just hit my knee. I'm going to start asking you the questions. So, was Shazam! Fury of the Gods good or bad?
Kind of like with all DC movies, it is a superhero movie, and DC tends to be kind of hit and miss when it comes to its superhero stuff. When they first did Shazam, the first Shazam, it was typically seen as good, and I didn't see anything that would draw people away from this one, and the crowd that I was with in the theater seemed to really enjoy it.
Okay, so we don't have a definitive answer on that one. So let's just move on. What is the best scene in the movie?
Is there one that I could even point to as the best scene? It's all just kind of like blurring together in my head. Like nothing really stands out.
So, what should be cut from the movie? I have very concrete answers for all of these that are all completely and totally objective for sure.
I'm completely sure that you do have those answers. Like the first thing that I thought of was the unicorn thing at the very beginning, where the youngest daughter.
I'm going to go ahead and say that is absolutely objective. That I think 100% of people would agree with you, not 99.999%, like 100% of people. So we're going to give that a pass. Cut the unicorns out of the movie completely. So, who's the best actor in the movie? Jack Dylan Grazer, I agree with you completely. He was absolutely on the entire thing. 100% of people in the world, actually, they did a poll. 100% of people in the world absolutely agree with you on that one too. So.
I was actually gonna say Jack Dylan Grazer was the one that stood out the most to me in this film.
Well, you know what? Why don't you tell us who the worst actor in the movie is?
Worst performance would, I'd say, out of the three villainous sisters, Lucy Liu. There we go. That's
that
fine.
one only 99.999999999% of people would agree with you on that.
But I will go ahead and finish this. Lucy Liu's performance as the main villain, she kind of felt one note throughout the entirety of the movie.
Well, that's the thing about the movie, isn't it? Is she wasn't even really the main villain. They introduce Helen Mirren as if she's the main villain, and then Lucy Liu comes in and sweeps in as the main villain. Just like they introduced Shazam as if he, or Billy Batson as if he's the protagonist, and then Jack Dylan Grazer has an entire movie to himself where he's the protagonist.
Yes, this is all true, by the way. No lies detected here.
Oh my gosh, what an exhausting time at the theater.
It throws a lot at you, expecting you to pick up on everything that's going on. Doesn't really give any one detail time to breathe enough to let it sink in. It's just kind of like fast paced. Let's get to the next thing.
See, I felt like that for a little bit until I realized that there was just nothing to do.
Yeah.
It's like Billy Batson's thing is, he wants to fight for his family and protect them, but he doesn't feel like he's up for it and he can't do it alone.
Yeah.
And it's neat. It's neat, the idea that he can't do it alone as an extension of the first movie where he tries to make himself a loner and push people away. And that movie kind of is there. And I don't want to throw any shade. I really like David F. Sandberg. He's the director of the first one and this one. Annabelle Creation, Lights Out. He's a very creative, talented person. And you gotta have a little bit of like empathy or sympathy for the VFX houses that are being ground away, that are creating all these crazy spectacles that, we'd never be able to see if it weren't for it. And it's not their fault that it looks exactly like, just like the generic carnage you have in Transformers, or, that the Philadelphia Field thing just made me think of X-Men Days of Future Past, and like every frame of the movie just makes me think, I've seen this before.
Like even the intro scene for the villains, it was almost the exact same scene in Shazam 1, where instead of just creatures attacking the board members, it's people attacking each other because of magic.
And so many things.
Yeah.
Look, it just feels like in the middle of a machine that was going in a direction that didn't know where it was going. And we now know everything's been canceled and rebooted and all this kind of stuff. They put together a movie with a care and effort from a team that seems to genuinely care about like the characters.
Yeah.
And it's not their fault. Who cares?
Right.
It's weird. Every single flaw I have with the movie is movie pointed out about itself.
Mm-hmm.
It opens up with Zachary Levi as, Billy Batson, Shazam, sitting there saying, well, I'm just kind of a compilation of The Flash and Superman, and Batman is cooler than I am, and I don't really have anything unique to bring to the table.
Yeah.
It's like, great opening. Strong opening.
Mm-hmm.
And then they reintroduce Jack Dylan Grace's character, and he's spectacular, and they introduce a nice little, like, romance thing for him, and then they point out, there's, like, a weird age difference thing, and that's kind of a, like, don't look too hard at it kind of romance. And, Shazam grabs the tail of a giant dragon and is like, you're made of wood. That seems like a design flaw. And, a fire-breathing dragon made out of wood seems like a design flaw. Like, don't point this stuff out. Like, all you're gonna do is draw people's attention to it. Like,
it's not like that. Those things aren't interesting things to think about. But I don't know. It's during the final scene, I almost felt like I was watching I almost felt like I was watching like a more technically superior version of Jason and the Argonauts, with the Minotaur and the Cyclops and everything that you see in there.
Right, just minus Jason or the Argonauts, except for that one scene where they're riding unicorns. I don't know how much money Skittles paid Warner Brothers.
I forgot about that already.
I again, no shade. It's cute. It's funny. Like that. What I was thinking when that was happening was I was thinking this is a very PG, but successful PG level humor.
Yeah.
And then right after that, taste the rainbow, motherfucker, and like they cut her off, and I'm like, that's a very PG-13 joke.
Yeah.
And then Helen Mirren, we talk full spoilers on this podcast, gets stabbed through the chest, and it's completely bloodless, but at the same time, it's just violent enough that, like, this movie is very PG-13.
Yeah.
But it's also not. I seriously was looking like, is this PG? Is this PG-13? What is this? It felt simplistic enough, and it felt so basic, like introducing concepts. Mm-hmm. And the fantasy and whimsy of it felt aimed at like the younger Harry Potter years.
Yes.
And you could just make it PG and tell people that Shazam is the superhero for kids who want to jump ahead and be superheroes, and market it that way and let it be that way. And like,
I think that's the ultimate issue though with Shazam Fury of the Gods, is that there's the superhero movie genre is just so oversaturated at this point that you put out something like this that's just at the average, it's going to get swallowed up and forgotten pretty quickly.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's a big bummer is to know and people in the industry, they have to work. You have to keep working.
Yeah.
So I think people are going to appreciate that they had a job and they were able to be paid for doing that job. But yeah, to have something be like this, like we're not doing anything special here.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, okay, well that's kind of a bummer because this,
In contrast to Shazam, which has almost like comparing this to a movie like Creed 3, one I think we can move into next. Creed, it's a sequel to a franchise, and it does something unique, even to the Rocky series as a whole, that I haven't seen before. Where you have someone coming in from their past, and you have this whole different dynamic with the antagonist that I don't think Rocky's had ever with any of his people. The closest thing you could get with was Apollo Creed in the second one, but this goes all the way back to their childhood as far as like the bond between Jonathan Majors and Michael B. Jordan goes.
But you're saying Creed 3, which, is the second in the 3 movies we're going to talk about to catch up. We're talking about Shazam! Fury of the Gods, Creed 3, and Scream 6.
Yes.
And you're saying that Creed 3 does something unique with its story so that it feels like an installment that earns its own 2 feet.
Mm-hmm.
And on that level, I agree with you. I think I really appreciated how carefully they wrote more to Adonis's backstory. So I wanted to see Creed 3 because Creed 1 is one of my favorite movies of all time.
Mm-hmm.
And Creed 2 was pretty alright. These are movies that floor me. I viscerally the emotions are so heavy that it feels rocked. I have to sit still for a minute and process things at the end of it. That was an event going to see that movie.
Oh yeah.
And that's the kind of thing that you're looking for in a big blockbuster like tentpole. Mm-hmm. And it's a shame that it came out as early as it did and seems like it's just being caught up in the mix of things and already no one's talking about it anymore because Jonathan Majors is absolutely incredible.
Yeah. Yeah, his acting was so good that I knew what the trick was with him through the trailers, and the movie still got me thinking, wait, I thought he was the antagonist. Why is he being so friendly? What's going on here? I don't get this.
Right. Well, it feels like it's a real relationship.
Yes.
And they're fighting for very real reasons. I would say I have my problems with it.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like the part where he is villainous feels a little forced and rushed.
Mm-hmm.
He goes from... I'm going to immediately throw this out here. We're talking about the good and bad of Creed 3. I'm going to talk about one thing that is hilariously, off the wall. Okay. The champion, the person that Creed is championing and training in order to become the next, heavyweight champion, I think it is.
Yeah.
Okay, has to fight Jonathan Majors. Gets knocked out illegally.
Mm-hmm.
Wakes up. Has lost his title to the guy that cheated the victory away from him.
Mm-hmm.
And Creed is fighting to earn the title back for himself from that guy.
Yeah, real world wise, it doesn't make a lot of sense. Thematically, it works really well.
Yeah, emotionally, it's pretty outstanding what Michael B. Jordan, as a first-time director, manages to pull off.
Yeah. There are a couple shots that stand out in my mind. Still, when Michael B. Jordan's leaving Jonathan Majors' office for the first time, you get that split hallway view with the different backlightings, and you get this contrast of lighting, and it's really, really effective.
For a second, the tension there is are they listening for one another?
Mm-hmm.
Are they're looking at each other through the wall? I felt everyone else in the audience when I was watching that hold their breath.
Yes.
And also, we had a very talkative person sitting a couple seats away from us, and so it was very obvious when people were holding their breath because you heard like, "Oh." So, Creed 3, you know, the backstory that they write in, where you know Adonis still has ties to the community that he was in group homes and things, even after he was adopted. Like that works and feels right, and the reasoning for him feeling like he owes Jonathan Majors and all of this, like it feels earned. It feels like the word is verisimilitude, like true to life, like it's something that could be a thing.
No, but like as far as like that goes, like the aggression is the aggression and the bad blood between the two is like very male stereotype, where they refuse to talk it out. It's all through punches, and they finally get over everything after a long punching fest at the very end, and after that, everything's cool. There's no bad blood between them after the end of that final boxing match when Creed's won, and they kind of cement that with that scene where where Adonis goes and talks to Jonathan Majors in the locker room, and it's like everything that was said that needed to be said was said in the ring, and that fight itself felt like a very personal thing on its own, where even during that fight scene, you get this really nice shot where there's this real quick cut, and it's just them in the ring. The audience is gone, and it's treated as a one-on-one. Let's just get this out in the open, and let's just get this over with. Private affair.
Are you talking about the shot where they're kids, or are you talking about the whole sequence?
Kind of the whole sequence.
Okay. Yeah, I'm curious what you thought about that. I want to point out one thing real quick. The sound design. That there's this slick sort of what's the word for it? Silk sort of zipping noise on like every punch. Like they're always skirting past one another. Like it was, the punches felt like they hit really hard. Everything felt really, really visceral.
Yes.
Yeah, that sequence, you know, it's fully admitted to be completely anime inspired. The thing that it does, it's unique to like every Rocky installment, and one of my favorite things about it is it was basically a way to condense real time in this very subjective way. Like, so they go in, they have one round, and they go sit down, and the bell dings, and they go back to fight each other, and it happens in round 2. When they double punch, and it comes back to reality, they're at the end of round 11.
Like you mentioned that it's admitted to be anime inspired. It felt a lot like Megalobox, which is this boxing anime that I really like. It's which itself has some inspirations to Rocky itself. It's also seen as a spiritual successor to another anime called Ashita no Joe. But yeah, I could see a little bit of that in this movie as well.
Well, and the cross punch, people are saying that's a spoiler because that's pulled straight from Goku versus Majin Vegeta. Yeah, there's I think Michael B. Jordan also had him watch Akira, so you could get a sense of the idea of like childhood relationships and the tragedy of someone falling apart. Like, I definitely would watch Creed 3 like as a companion to Creed 1, and just like because of like the passion and the visceral nature of the fights, and it has its own entertainment, and has its own level of inspiration and guttural feeling of wanting to go to the gym and, you know, like overcome obstacles and all that anxiety. The only issue really I take with it is that the writing, like you said about the character not being able to verbalize things and having to fight with his punches and do that, takes a lot of the subtext from Creed and just turns it into text for Creed 3. I feel like Creed is a movie that is very much about everyone is asking him questions about why he's doing what he's doing, and he doesn't have answers for people. He just keeps fighting.
Okay.
So there's not these conversations that are bluntly pulling out in a text, you know, like, Like, you have to get treatment. She can't do this. There's obviously she's like you, and you have to talk about it because she has to learn to talk about it and measure and control and all this kind of stuff. And I don't hate it. I like the fact that it's giving you that to chew on, like, at face value. But that makes me like Creed 3 for completely separate reasons than I like Creed 1. And so, yeah.
Right. Yeah, no, very similar reasons. I like Creed 1 because of it's very much a companion piece to Rocky 1, where you have a lot of similar beats to that, but it's building a completely new character with a very different kind of past, and that is built up upon more in Creed 3, and that's why I would go back to watch Creed 3. It's building up on a character that is very new to still the cinematic space, and there are a bunch of scenes in there that stick out in my mind that I would just love to see again. This was a shocker for me. Not gonna lie.
What was the shocker for you?
Oh, I hated Scream 5, so I had no intentions of going to see Scream 6. And despite having it the same writers, I think they did a phenomenally better job with Scream this time. Sounds like you may disagree.
Specifying writers, I don't know, but I think that this movie was phenomenal in context of how it was made.
Okay.
So this movie was greenlit, created, and finished in a year. Right? Which
Yeah.
when you think back to it, a lot of like horror franchises used to do that. Like Halloween, Friday the 13th, you have one coming out each year. Saw, famously, Paranormal Activity, all of them do this for a while. But I think the level of intricacy of the set pieces and the effort put into it for having been made. I remember, like, I was going to see the movie, hearing about Scream 6, in pre-production.
Mm-hmm.
Then hearing in, I think, June of that year, that they were not going to get Sydney to return.
Yeah.
That's going to kill me. I can't just not do that. I'm terrible, famously, with names. Nev Campbell. Oh my gosh. Okay.
There we go.
So, you and I both hated Scream 5.
Yes.
And I think for similar, still a little bit different reasons. For me, the crux of the whole thing is that they didn't pick a direction. They tried to split it between being a commentary on elevated horror, being a commentary on the negative backlash of like toxic film circles that are unrelated to horror, like Star Wars and all of that.
Mm-hmm.
That gave its own problems to the movie, I think, which mainly is just I didn't like the killers at all. Mm-hmm. Like, I didn't like the idea of the killers at all. I shouldn't say I didn't like the killers. Of course, you don't like people who kill people, like
right.
Whatever. But more than that, they hung a lot of the emotional weight of the legacy characters on the death of Dewey.
Yes.
And Dewey's death was so dumb. After 4 movies of survival, for him to go up and make a mistake that they bring up in every single movie, which is don't trust that the person is dead.
Right.
Act like it. And he did something that the dumb characters do.
Right.
Like, so it felt so disingenuous and like melodramatic the way they reacted to all that. And they made that bind the new characters, the old characters, and I didn't give a crap by the end about all of this. Like, they were just forcing so many things. Like, the heaviest emotional beats of that movie just seemed empty to me, and then the final reveal of the mystery was so nothing that I hated it. I can't stand it. So then the surprising thing with Scream 6, the way they brought that forward and the way they let these 4 characters that survived from the first one bond, I thought was fantastic. I really enjoyed all of the main characters, the core 4 or whatever, if they're going to insist on calling themselves that.
Oh, gosh.
I really enjoyed all of their chemistry and, the relationship being built up between Jenna Ortega and his character. And I really believed them together and I liked them together. I cannot believe that 2 of them survived.
Yeah. I can't. At least one of them I cannot believe survived.
That was a stretch. That's bizarre.
That's more. That was more than a stretch. So, Scream 6 isn't without its issues for sure. Scream 5, as soon as I hated Scream 5 mostly because it felt like the writers were outwardly blaming fans of film for not liking the ideas that they were doing, and so with the main villains of Scream 5 being those kind of people, the ones that wanted to put movies back on track, it felt like the writers were putting all the onus on what most people would see as their bad ideas on the fans not accepting what they were writing. So it's not their fault, it's the fans' fault. That's what I didn't like about Scream 5, and that's what I couldn't get past with that movie. With Scream 6, I actually think I think they handled the characters of Sam and Tara a lot better. They had this Sam kind of takes on a motherly role towards Tara, trying to keep her out of harm's way, and you get this whole mother not letting go of her child kind of scenario, which does play out, and it plays out in a pretty well executed way, I would like to think.
Yeah, it's twisted and it's kind of cool.
Mm-hmm.
She's like, drop me and like give me the knife, like,
yeah.
All right, I have to very on the nose let go. I still think the writing is absurd in this.
It is.
Just across the board. I think the direction 100% is in the correct hands, and it saves like everything.
Mm-hmm.
Like that moment of her hanging and saying like, you have to let me go. It's like so cringe-inducingly obvious, but the winking that it's like, let me defend myself and I'm gonna pull this, and like the instant amount of tension is like, will she pull it off? The guy seems like he would,
yeah,
and like it becomes a moment of tension, like she's gonna pull off a stunt or something. Like,
yeah,
that was really great. The the entire sequence in the apartment, phenomenal.
Oh yes.
The entire sequence leading out through the windows, like, oh my gosh, and the character dropping from the ladder is like one of the most like, oh
yes. No, there were times watching this that it felt like they were kind of letting go of the meta narrative that Scream is known for. It almost felt like it was just a story in and of itself without giving any commentary on anything. And once they get to that scene in the park where the one girl is going
it's
through
a franchise now,
thing,
and that,
I got physically annoyed, and I wanted them to skip past this part so I could just get back to the movie. It felt like they had to.
They said they were going to do with 5.
Yeah.
There was publicity beforehand saying they were straying away from the meta elements of the thing and not going to do that. But then 5 was all about the meta elements of everything.
So whenever they started to lean into that franchise meta, I got insanely annoyed. But whenever anything else was going on that made me forget about it, and I was just watching a horror movie, I was incredibly happy. I like the idea. I think there are ways to continue to bring it about, and that brings me to Kirby, which was one of the most exciting things in the movie to me. The idea that a legacy character came back and has changed and is an FBI agent. And the idea that you now have a police force personally invested in, like Dewey. Mm-hmm.
Okay? But they are Randy also.
Yes.
So you can be in a room with the police having a serious discussion where the police would typically just wave off people who are horror fans. Mm-hmm. There's that conversation between Randy's niece and Kirby where they sort of poke at like Candyman original or reboot and like both, and they're kind of testing each other. There's this idea that if Ghostface is going to be based on movies, if the reason people are Ghostface is based on movies, that you can bring those elements into taking the crime seriously and keep those things in balance.
Right.
I break down the whole movie into this one issue for me.
Sure.
If it was going to be about a family member of Richie's is terrorizing them, you could very much meta bring up Stab 2. It was the mom.
Yeah.
But they didn't know who his mom was around them. And you could have the characters be on edge, not knowing who in their life is related to Richie or not. And you have them go back and you're having them look up, like, who was at his funeral and who wasn't at his funeral. It was, oh, his sister wasn't at his funeral. What does his sister look like? Well, there's no record of her. We can't find that. We can't find that. Oh, the police are covering it up. You could have actually built the movie around that. Or you could follow what made the movie seem so interesting in the first place, where the whole start of the movie is, we're going to finish Richie's movie. And those people are killed in a way by someone who straight up says, like, who gives a shit about movies, right?
Yeah.
And you could have just leaned entirely into, you have no idea why this is happening. Okay? That the layer of Ghostface stuff is now kind of there as a resource for Sam, which that is a whole fascinating thing with her character.
Yep.
And then do something new and original with the villain. I would actually be way more like, oh my gosh, that's a good twist, if Kirby was a villain than what actually ends up being the truth.
Yeah.
They had put enough pieces in place to make that make sense to me, that when that was revealed, I was like,
yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah.
I really liked her. That's awesome though. But then
yeah.
And then I was like, that must be why people are let down by the ending, is because, like, she's a likable character and it sucks. And then nope, twist again. And then twist again. Like,
yeah. Yeah, the one kill that took me out of it, which isn't really a kill, which you alluded to earlier, is Chad's non-death, which just should have been a straight up death.
A guy with his arms held out to his sides, who's stabbed in the body repeatedly over and over again by two people and then dropped to the ground.
Yeah.
And that shot where that happens is horrifying. And then the two killers doing the same thing, like mirror image of each other, is excellent and horrifying.
Yeah.
And then of course it's like, well, 3 killers. Like, the only good thing about having 3 killers is it's too exhausting to try and do the work to figure out who was where.
Yeah.
So you don't run into the painfully obvious issue from Scream 5, where that little girl, because Jack Quaid was with them in the elevator, the little girl is the one who killed Dewey.
Yeah, that and the Gale Weather chase scene around her apartment, I think, was really effective. Where,
oh my gosh, yeah,
the way that everything was playing out, she could have very well died there, and it would have made sense with how the movie was going. And
it's again really weird for them to confirm she's not dead.
Yeah, but also she didn't act like a moron. Like, she acted like she knew what to do because she's been through this before. Whenever she had a chance, she tried to shoot the guy in the head. She ran out of bullets, though. Whenever she tried to make the stab to the head, the guy got her first. Like,
I mean, I can see it. I still don't understand why you wouldn't just take your phone, go to the front door, shut the front door, call the police.
Right.
The dude could leave off of your balcony, but then you don't get stabbed.
Yeah.
You know, when you're talking about not dying, I know she has this streak in her of, like, I have to catch the guy, and that's why she doesn't make that decision. But it always seems like a stretch for me to be like, it's like the smart thing, when, like, everybody is just so weird. In as far as Scream 5 and 6, everybody is just so weird. The killers are all just so weird. And, like,
no, like,
I don't know.
They are fine up until when they reveal that they're the killers, and then they just aren't people anymore. They're caricatures.
How cool would it be to have a Scream movie where the killer is actually, their motivation is every time someone seems like there could be a potentially new Ghostface, they pre-kill them. Just take the opening of the movie and expand on that. Where every time Sam goes to hang out with somebody, Ghostface kills them.
Yeah.
But the police keep finding out that there's some seedy thing that was going on with the people that are being killed, and Sam has to question, You know, like, am I really safe? Is there now a ghost face that's trying to kill her? Like, she has her
Right.
own issues with seeing ghost face as a positive thing because of her father. There are just so many more interesting movies than what they come up with. That's the problem. And they've already greenlit Scream 7.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And
You know.
I just want to see something different.
We almost did.
It's so quick, and I gotta just appreciate it for what it is because of how quickly they. Oh yeah, I don't think I finished this. The Neve Campbell in June, they announced that she wasn't going to be in the movie.
Right.
So the movie was written assuming she was going to be in the movie in June, and it wrapped at the end of August.
What did they rewrite?
Either all they had to do was just cut out a couple of scenes or what, but the point is that means they only had from midway through June to the end of August to make this movie that we ended up seeing. And they had from August until then to like cut it together.
Okay.
Clearly they were super crunched and they were just trying to turn around and capitalize on having some success with the last one. And I think they did a much better job with this one than they did with the last one. I genuinely really enjoyed this movie.
Yeah,
I think Scream 6 is awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's Creed 3, amazing. Scream 6, great. Shazam, Fury of the Gods, I forgot that's what we started talking about.
Yeah, that's about right.
So we are This Film Not Rated. Again, we're a branch of the Music City Drive-In podcast network, so check out the musiccitydrivein.com and or go to the YouTube channel, Music City Drive-In. Or at Drive-In Podcast.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Yes. The Drive-In. We are part of the Drive-In Podcast Network. I'm Eric. You can find me at High Contrast FLM on Twitter.
And I'm Curtis. You can. I recently changed my Twitter handle. You can find me at TalkAnimeGA on Twitter now.
Okay. What's your favorite 2023 movie?